Hi everyone, I want to share my 5-star reads of 2023, what I think about them, what I liked about them, and maybe I'll read a few quotes. Most of them are tagged, not all of them. Um, some of them I probably don't remember, but maybe I'll remember why I gave them 5 stars. So let's just get started. I am going to start with the selection. Basically, it's kind of like Bachelorette vibes, except you're a princess. So basically, all these women have to go through a process of learning how to be a princess, being the best, and then at the end, one of them will be selected to marry the prince. And yeah, it does have politics in here, which I really like and appreciated because I didn't want it to be this princessy kind of thing. So I really liked that. There was politics in here. I liked that the female character spoke her mind. I liked that the prince was very big on being a listener, putting himself in other shoes, and also just genuinely being a good person, I think. So, yeah, the summary is the opportunity to be swept in a world of glittering gowns and priceless jewels, to live in a place and compete for the heart of the gorgeous Prince Maxon. But for America Singer, being selected is a nightmare. It means turning her back on her secret love with Aspen. So, basically, in this world, there's definitely a caste system. She cannot be with the person that she loves back home because of the caste system, and his name is Aspen. I definitely expected them to be together, so I was surprised when her and Prince Maxon actually ended up together. I was very surprised by that, but it was really good. Like, it wasn't a bad surprise, it was a really good surprise. Then it says, she doesn't want the crown. So originally she doesn't want the crown. She just genuinely wants to be with the guy that she fell in love with back at home. She wants to stay home. She never dreamed of ever becoming a princess, ever wanting to. That was just something she didn't want at all. Then America meets Prince Maxon. Gradually, she begins to realize that the life she always dreamed of may not compare to the future she never imagined. So while she's here, she doesn't see Aspen a lot. She sees more of Prince Maxon, and they kind of come to an agreement. They kind of just work together. Basically, they fall in love with each other. Genuinely, they bring out the best in each other. It is very good. It's very good. I really appreciate it, and I really like this book. I did read the whole series, but this one was my favorite out of the entire whole thing. So yeah, I really liked it. It was cute. It was short. All the books in the series is short, so it's nothing too big at all. And then the next book was Bully by Penelope Douglas. So basically, the female character and male character are best friends at first, and then all of a sudden something happens. She has no clue what is going on. He turns around and basically becomes her worst enemy. At school, he pulls pranks on her, he bullies her, and she's just fed up with it. So I think she goes on a trip. Then she comes back and she's like, you know what? I am not going to let this guy control how I feel, control what I do, or be mean to me anymore. Like, I'm going to stand my ground. But when she comes back, she finds out a lot of things. Basically, he's still a bully for most of it, but she finds out that there's a reason behind. She finally finds out the reason, pretty much. I'm not going to say the reason, but another reason is basically he doesn't want no guy to have her. Yeah, he loves her, she loves him, they fall in love. I really liked that he's like a racer, and she definitely knows how to drive his car. He lets no one drive it, no girl, no boy, nothing. And at the end, he needs her to drive, and she wins. And boom, from there, they start opening up to each other. They start explaining why everything is happening. It took her a while to trust him, especially like since he was the bully, and this is a bully trope. I don't read them often, but I really liked this one just because there was a lot of emotions going through it, a lot of feelings through it, and he also, it's not like he's just some bully. Like, there's a lot of reasons behind the way that he acts, and they each have a story, they each have a background, and I really love that because sometimes stories don't add like a lot of the past, but a lot of the past was in here, and I appreciated that. So that was a good book. I loved that it was 5 stars. Um, the next book is Hooked. This is a Peter Pan retelling, but it's kind of different, really different. Um, yeah, really different. Anyways, it's sorry, it's by Emily McIntyre, I think is how you say it. This book was so good. The month that I was reading this book, no book was doing anything for me. Like, I wanted to quit reading and everything, and I think this was towards the last book that I had on my list that I needed to read. As soon as I started it, I was like, wow, like, this is dragging me in, this is pulling me in. I couldn't put the book down at all. Like, I loved it so much. It was such a good book. I did tab a little bit of it, but because it was so good, like, I couldn't stop reading. I couldn't tab anymore. I was like, no. So I couldn't tab anymore. Let me see the last thing I tabbed. Let me read that. Real men have loyalty. That's the last thing I tagged because it was James' point of view. Um, so let me explain this story. So let me explain the back. So once upon a time, there was a little boy, his belly full of laughter, his life full of joy, until one day something changed, stripped his innocence away. So basically, James, the main male character, his family was all murdered, and it was just him. He had to live with the fact that his family was murdered, and he knew exactly who planned out that murder, so he thinks. And he wants revenge, like full on revenge. He made it his life mission, he made it his life goal. Like, he wants vengeance for his family. Like, which is understandable. Like, your mom, your dad passed away, like, they died. It said the whole inside making space for the devil to come and play. So he is very, I wouldn't say ruthless, but he is very much like that. So his character is very strong, very brave, very deathly seeking. Like, he doesn't care who he hurts pretty much unless he gets the goal at the end of the day. Um, his dreams are gone forever. He grew up way too fast. An endless night of crocodiles and watches made of glass. He grew into a villain, the taste of vengeance on his tongue, craving to make his enemies pay for the misdeeds that they had done. But instead, he found a darling girl and refused to let her go. So basically, Wendy, she basically comes into the bar. He sees her, he's fascinated with her, he wants her, and he's not going to get done until he has her. And she does fall in love with him very quickly, I think, in my opinion. But I think it was kind of important that it was made that way. I think it was kind of supposed to be that way, that she fell in love with him right away. So I really did like that. But yeah, for what better way to make the man pay than still his little shadow? And that is her nickname, Little Shadow. It's so cute. It's so different. Like, so different. And I loved this book so much. The trust was in here, mistrust, and the trust that had to be earned. I really loved that a lot. And I would say I loved the male character more than I did love the female character, just because I feel like I got more of his character, and just like he seems like this big bad guy with no morals at all, just his vengeance. But there's like little things that he does to show his true colors and to show what kind of man he really is, like protecting her brother. I think that was so good. Basically taking care of her, like, I don't know, I feel like there's little things that his character does that shows that he really is good at heart, not just full of vengeance. So I really liked that, because sometimes you can get male characters who are just straight out dark, and that's it. And yeah. Sorry. And then the next one is Twisted Love. This one blew me away. I freaking ate this shit up. This book was so freaking good. Like, love it. I freaking loved this book. This is the only one I read out of the series so far. So I'm still getting there. But this one, oh my god. I loved it. I loved her character. I loved his character. I loved the brother's character. I loved the best friend's characters. All the characters were so well written. It was amazing. All the situations, all the histories, all the everything. It was such a really good written book. So, this is my favorite freaking quote that he says to her: "You are the light to my dark sunshine. Without you, I'm lost." We all wish we can hear that every single day. Like, us girls need a little reassurance, and he gave her that. He did fuck up a little bit, but he got back, groveled for her, stalked her, gave up his job for her, so yeah. So Alex is a devil blessed with the face of an angel and cursed with a past he can't escape. So throughout the book, you're constantly reminded of how handsome he is, how freaking breathtaking he is. And I appreciate that because in my head, I just imagined this guy who was so good looking, like, so, driven by a tragedy that has hunted him for most of his life, his ruthless pursuits for success and vengeance leave little room for matters of the heart. So, here we go again. Another character who loves vengeance, who needs vengeance, feels like they need vengeance, make their entire life with just that goal. He too lost his family and witnessed it happen. He witnessed his little sister die, which I think is so heartbreaking because I think of my siblings and I'm like, I kind of get where he's coming from. But yeah, he basically makes that his goal. But and the characters do become his pawns, but he also develops a connection with the characters. So his best friend and the women that he falls in love with, they were pawns originally to catch the guy that basically ordered the kill of his family, but towards the end you can realize that he actually has deep connections with these two most important people in his life. So yeah, it says, but when he's forced to look after his best friend's sister, he starts to feel something in his chest. A crack, a melt, a fire that can end his world as he knew it. So of course she is the one woman, besides his mom, in his life, one person in his life that can make him feel again, other than vengeance, other than revenge, anything like that. And I think he becomes hooked on it. I definitely see that. I feel like they could become hooked on each other. And I really love that. It says, Ava Chen is a free spirit trapped by nightmares of a childhood she can't remember. So the female character too has this past going on. She too has trauma, and basically they get each other through their trauma, but because he fucks up, she feels this big sense of betrayal that she cannot trust him again, even after falling in love with him. And basically after that, after everything happens, after he finally got his vengeance, even after he breaks her heart, he stalks her, quits his job, and does everything to get her back. And he says no matter what it takes, he'll wait for her. It doesn't matter how much he has to work for it. So I'm just going to flip to a random quote or a situation. Oh my god. This one's dirty. I don't know why. I feel guilty. So she says, or he says, I want you to walk around with my come on you so you know exactly who you belong to. And yeah, this type of guy in the bedroom is a whole fucking monster. And basically, she loves and is interested in that, so they work so well together. But let me tell you, the girl that he was sleeping with before falling in love with Ava, we don't like her. We just don't like her. But this book was so well written. I loved it so much. I read it so fast because I was so into it. I could not be into it, you know? So yeah. Okay, so these two, part of the Knock Me Out series, were my favorite, both 5 stars. The middle one I did not like at all. The second book I did not like at all. So when I first read this, I didn't tab it. I don't know if I highlighted stuff. But yeah, basically I was so into it. Knox Morgan is one of my favorite characters. He's just this big, grumpy, immature dude. And a lot of people hate that, but I loved it. I thought it was so cute and I thought it was so funny. Like, small town romances can be serious and cannot be serious. You know? Like, it's okay if the characters are immature, in my opinion. Um, but Lucy Score is one of, like, she's my top favorite author. I love and can eat any small town romance anytime, any day. Um, but so let me just let me just read the summary and explain it to you. So Knox Morgan doesn't tolerate drama, especially in the form of a stranded runaway bride. So he meets the main character, Naomi, and oh god, they just can't stand each other. Like, and they bicker and the banter. Oh my god, I love it. Their immaturity with each other is so cute. Like, let me just say, if you're in love with someone, you can. There's like levels you can be immature, and then there's levels that you cannot be immature, if you know what I mean. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but basically these two characters together are so funny, so cute, and he's so protective of her and only her. Like, and she falls in love with this big broody guy. So it's cute, and yeah. So Naomi is not only on the run, not just from her fiance, but from her entire life. So basically her entire life is not going for her. Nothing is working for her, and she runs away. Um Yeah, it's just crazy. But she also has a twin, Tina, who is basically the complete opposite from Naomi. Naomi is this girl who has everything together, who has a plan, who has a schedule. Um, but Tina is the opposite. Tina is a troublemaker, and Naomi has to pick up her sister's pieces every single time. But in that town, Knox was also the one picking up Tina's uh, mess every single time too. So, but they're identical twins. So when Knox first sees Naomi, he's so angry. He hates her because he thinks it's Tina. But it's not Tina, babe. That's Naomi. Anyways, too bad for Naomi. Her evil twin hasn't changed at all. So, Naomi comes from this story of everything's not working for her, lands in this small town, has to clean up her sister's mess, but when she gets there, she finds out Tina had a daughter the whole time. She had a niece. And basically, Knox loves the niece, is there for the niece anytime, any day. And Naomi and Knox soon become, you know, these parental figures for their daughter. Not their daughter. Their daughter, but not their daughter. You know what I mean? Like, they become the parental figures for Tina's daughter. So I love everything that turned out. There was action in this book, which I loved. Banter, bicker, love, hardships, just everything I loved about it. It was just everything, and I was so excited to read the next book, but I didn't fall in love with that book. But Lucian's story, wow, was so good too. Lucy Score hinted on abuse in this book, and I think it's so important to recognize abuse. I feel like to make it more aware, because a lot of women or men or just being abused by parents or anything is a very hard situation that I feel like not a lot of people are aware of or talk about. Um, so I appreciate when Lucy Score definitely mentions it in most of her books. Most of her books that I read have that one of the characters has a story of abuse of any type. So I definitely appreciate that, just because I come from a family where some women were in an unfortunate situation like that. But yeah, I appreciate that so much. So basically, this is about Lucian and Sloane. They absolutely hate each other, so it's enemies to lovers, but it's also second chance because in high school they were like best of friends. They were good friends, and she loved Lucian so much, and he loved her, but he was in a situation in a household where that wasn't his main priority. He was going through so much. His dad was so awful. And when Sloane became aware of it, he kind of put her in a position where, hey, like, you can't tell anybody. And she didn't for a long time until she felt like, okay, he's really in danger. This needs to stop. And basically, the situation from there, something happens and he's not there to protect her. Just the same way he feels like he couldn't protect his mom. And because that situation happens, he blames her too for that happening, but he also blames more of himself. So you definitely see the hardships of what he goes through and what she goes through and what they go through with each other, of what they witnessed and what they went through and all the trauma in there. There's so many emotions on how they feel about each other. It's like they want to love each other, but they blame so much on each other, and they have so much baggage pretty much that they haven't really talked about. And basically, the way they get together first starts out with them just hooking up. And of course, it's bad from there. Like, Lucian is like a freaking god. He rocks her world. She can't go back. And he's in love with her, so he can't go back either. Um, but basically, they become really good together. They start trusting each other again. Sloane's character, she's a librarian. She's really hot. She's smoking hot. But she's also wanting to settle down. And so that's kind of how it all starts when they start hooking up. She just wants to settle down. And then he, protects her, doesn't want anyone else with her. So I think it's very good. I thought the story was so good. I loved it so much. Sloane and Lucian are one of the best couples I read about this year. It is a pretty thick book, but Lucy Score's chapters are short, so you can get through it very fast. For some people, not all people, but I went through it fast just knowing that the chapters were short, and I did tab like a lot, in my opinion. I can't like over tab. But let me read something. Maybe towards the end. Oh, this quote reminds me of something else that I loved so much that I love when a male character has so much commitment and so much dedication and determination to be with the female character. I love that when I see it in books. But okay, let me read you the quote. So basically, Lucian's like, Sloane, I don't think you understand what I'm saying. There's no discussion necessary. We are in a committed relationship. You mean something to me, and I'm not letting you go again. Not now, not ever. Everything else is just details. So basically, one day he woke up and decided, I love Sloane. I'm going to be with Sloane. She's going to be with me. There's nothing that's going to come in between that. And Sloane is like stubborn too. So he's stubborn too. So basically, she's like, where did he get that? Why is that in his head? Why can he just wake up someday and be like, oh, we're together? But that is who Lucian is, and she's stubborn as well. So, I'm not going to say the whole situation from what happens, but basically he just makes it known to everyone that they're together, they're in a committed relationship, even though she's so upset about it because she's like, hey, you can't just wake up one day and tell me we're in a relationship without doing the details. And that's why he was like, everything else is just details. So I love their story so much appreciated. The next one was A Court of Mist and Fury. Oh my god. So I wrote down that the first book was 5 stars, but that was an accident because it just was not for me. The second one, though, this is a really good story. It's fantasy romance. There's a lot of political views in it. I recommend reading this whole series. I love this series so much that I ate it up. I read it so fast, I feel like. Feyre and Rysan are the it fantasy couple for me right now, like besides Zayden and Violet. But still, this is so good. There's fairies in here, fae, like different creatures, there's action, there's a lot of things that play out. I did like the first book though, just because I was not expecting Tamlin to be this bad character, it turns out, um, at first, because the more I continued to read in the first book, I was like, this all seems way too good to be true. And I was like, what? But I love when Rysand, you see more of him in here, and throughout the entire rest of the series, but you see more of their connection, their bond, and they find out that they're basically mates, fated mates. But yeah, I really love that. I love Rysand's character, always wanting to protect her, even if it means he can't have her. Like, I feel like that is so honorable, and you see more of his background, you see more of his friends throughout the series. So it was a big series, but I really loved it. This was 5 stars for me. The 2023. So these two books are so good because it takes back in a long time, like a long time ago. I forgot what era it took in, but basically it's where it hits on the topic of where women have little rights, when divorce comes into, when voting. So these two were so good, but Portrait of a Scotsman made me cry. Like the things he does for her, the things he says to her just are so, made me want to cry. Like this was so good. And this one was good too. So it hits on, basically discusses all of the women who are the main characters, um what their roles are in life in their households, and all of them want and fight for women's rights, but all of them fall in love with men who are high status, I would say, who normally typically have everything going for them, who are stubborn, who are assholes, but basically they fall in love with these women, and they have the same point of views when it comes to um, women's rights. So I think that was very good. It was beautifully written and everything. I think this one was like a forced marriage. Portrait of a Scotsman. Yeah. Basically, um, she's forced into a marriage because back then you couldn't really choose who you wanted to be with unless, I think, you got pregnant. You kind of had to marry the baby daddy. I'm not 100% sure, but she was in this situation. She didn't want to be in that situation, obviously, because her whole life she wanted to fight for women's rights and do what she wanted. Um, but it turns out really good. It's a really beautiful story. I remember crying. I just remember crying, and I just know that he says like some of the most beautiful things to her. So I definitely recommend all my 5 star reads. Now the last one I feel like is a 5 star read for mostly everyone. Fourth Wing, wow. I saw it on TikTok and I avoided it because usually when I read TikTok books that are so hyped, I have high expectations for them, and it doesn't go that way for me. So I was not expecting this. This was 5 freaking stars. I love Zayden. I love Violet. I love every other character in there. I was so sad when Liam died. Like, I love the dragons. I love the bond that she has with her dragon. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I want to say Tyrion. I can't say it, but I just love the characters. I was angry at Zayden for kind of betraying her trust because it's like, what the heck? And it kind of made me nervous because I was like, if they fell in love now and then he fucked up now and there's more books, what is going to happen? Because I want them together. I want them to stay together. And I'm currently reading Iron Flame. That book is hard to get through, not going to lie. It is a big book, but I think I'll like it. I'm enjoying some of it right now. Most of it is just like more politics, and still Zayden has to earn his trust with Violet, which is so understandable to me. But also, this is a fantasy book. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. So, yeah, those were all my 5-star reads. I loved 2023's 5-star reads. I have high hopes for 2024. I hope it goes good. I hope for a lot of things. But basically, Happy New Year. I hope you guys have a good freaking 2024. So, bye.